So, hi Leon. So I just thought it was easier to show you this over a screen share. Um, because what I'm trying to work out is, if you look, there's a big discrepancy in clicks and users again over this weekend, yeah? Which we've seen before, but this time it's very, very large. And what's interesting is this is the same time, we've got lots going into direct as per usual, but we've also got lots going into other. In fact, a large volume going into other. And digging into it, if we go into other and we look at it, this is Google stuff, right? Which converts, we know that because it converts higher and because it says Google, but also because we've got a lot of revenue that I think it has actually attributed already. So what we would have is what it's attributed is 11,753 plus 10,000, which would take you to roughly that. So that's the reported revenue, but the number of transactions, there's 1,000 transactions. Now, what I noticed here is you've got some USA stuff in here, but let's pretend that that's not all part of it, because that's what, 59. Where's 59 go over here to, there's 50 link clicks here and 8 sales. So let's ignore that. So website purchases, assuming all of these, the sum of those is 265. So if it's 265 at 49.90 would equal this. Now let's say it was double, right? So let's say it works out to be literally double this. Let's say they all bought 2. That maybe takes you to 26,000, but that's unlikely, I think, because I don't think everyone buys 2. So you're more likely to be slightly above that number, maybe 14, 15,000, you know? That would make sense for the number of clicks that you've got there, yeah? So let's try and back that up with the data we see in analytics. So in analytics, I see 2,000 users and I see 134 sales. Now in other, we get 134 sales, and then in other, social, we get 69 sales. So we do 134 plus 69. So 203, which means our missing sales in direct would equate to roughly, based off what it's telling us, 65. So 203? So we're looking at 60-ish sales out of this. So if you do 19,540 over 353, so it's 55 roughly. That's your average value per sale, and then times that by the number of missing sales, let's say 60, so you have about 3,000 in direct. So if that's the case, you would have 3,000 plus 7,391 plus, I can't remember what this one was now, let me just have a look. 3,000 plus 7,391 plus 3,581. 13,972. That's the total. Now, 13,972 works out to be roughly, yeah, so slightly higher than 265 by 49.90. In fact, I think it would be by what, roughly 55? No, slightly less, 54? Yeah, about 53, which would make sense, yeah? That makes sense, yeah? If that's the amount that it reports. But if that's the case, then we can work backwards from that, and we can say that if we're going to say, let's say 14,000 of this is socials, you've got 55,943 minus 14,000, then we have to take off 2,607, which is your organic, minus 366 minus 299.2, which is 38,670. Now let's go into direct and just double check that there's nothing else in direct. So I'm just going to copy this. So anything I would say in direct that is, yeah, so like the home page, for example, I think that's a good example of people who might know about the business already. So we take off 993 there. And we can go through and have a look at some of the other ones here, but then the rest of these, where they're coming in, we know that that's an issue. It would mean that the amount that's left outstanding is about 37,000. Now let's try and work that backwards, because 37,000 seems like a lot, right? So, I mean, it would account for most, you know, a larger majority of this revenue than we're reporting. So what we do is, let's take the data that we do have. So we've got 11,753, and we divide that by the number of users, which is 1,708, which is 6.88. So it's 6.88 euros per user. Now, knowing the number of clicks that we've got, which was 5,264, 6.88 times, so 5264, we're going to lose some, so let's take off 10%. So 4750. So conservatively, we can report about 32,000 of those if we're being conservative. If it goes nearer to what the actual number of clicks was, 5264, the number becomes 36,216. That's what we should be expecting to see from this, which means if it's 36,000, then it's 36,000 over 5812, which means your ROAS is 600% on this, if that makes sense. Does that all make sense? I just thought it would be easier for me to just show you, because this would suggest to me, if I do a comparison, the increase that we've got, all of that increase was in other, which if we look at it, compared to the previous period, there was an increase in social, definitely, but the social only went up, what, 24%? So it goes up about, what, like under 1,000, whereas the Google one goes up by about 40% there. And then equally, our direct stays about the same. So it's kind of interesting. It's just an interesting thing to look at. I think the way it attributes is just a bit messed up, because our total transactions goes up, but our revenue also went up, but proportionally a lot more. So I think it's looking at what the value of it actually is. Anyway, ask me any questions that you feel about this, but I think that's a good metric to look at. And I think it's a good, we can do this over a longer time period if you want, and we can work backwards from there.